So John Danaher says that submissions are the soul of jiu-jitsu. And that's his quote, but it's also similar to how in wrestling, pins would be the soul of that particular style. By soul, we're meaning like the purpose, or what they are at their essence. In jiu-jitsu, the essence is being able to submit somebody. So back when I was starting out, my favorite submission came from a video I watched of Boss Rutan. And in this video, he worked from head and arm Keisakatame. So he would be right here. And he would have his knee opened up, and he would be generating a lot of pressure. Now from here, what he would do is he would take this other arm and go into their leg like so, grab into his thigh, and he would use all of his muscles to curl in to finish this off. This submission was incredibly flashy, and I had a great time with it, but it has some drawbacks. One is that in order for me to get into this position, I have to find Keisakatame. And it's not a fun position to seek out because, in my opinion, it's more of like a last-ditch effort to retain side control. So it's not a position you see as often. The other is if I bring my arm through to get his leg, my arm isn't as strong as this leg. Even if I try to engage and grab my thigh first, I have to put my arm through his leg. And if he crosses ankles, when I did this, he's working with two legs against my one arm, and my one other arm is kind of stranded too. So in this position, I'd be in a tight spot as well. The last reason why the submission isn't as potentially effective, or it's harder to get into than others, is that should this submission hold fail, should I not be able to crunch him up like this and tap him, then it's hard for me to get out, to escape of my own accord, because in order for me to escape, I'd have to let go of my thigh, and the only thing stopping him from controlling this arm is that I have a leg involved. So I can't get out of it. So in a previous video, we had talked about the buggy choke. And similarly to the submission we did first, we'll find similar drawbacks to that submission too. And I will link that submission right up here. But for how to judge submissions in different terms, for how to judge whether or not we should give them more thought, I would use 3 different criteria. The first is that if I have a mechanical advantage using this submission. So for instance, when I am doing a Kimura technique and I am inside control and I am isolating my partner, my opponent's arm like this, and then I'm going through, establishing my grip, establishing a grip on his arm here, I'm now in a position where I'm using 2 arms against 1 arm. And this puts me at a mechanical advantage. My 2 arms should be stronger than his 1 arm. Also, I'm not just using my 2 arms against his 1 arm, but I'm locking this grip into my chest. So what ultimately finishes this submission is using my waist and incorporating my back to maneuver his arm into an angle that he'll need to tap because he'll lack the flexibility. That's one way in which we can judge a submission. Another way is, how often can I see this particular position? So in regards to your Kimura, you can see it where you're on top, or even if I had my partner on top of me and I was in a guarded position. So if I was in a position like if he was inside my guard like this, I could still grab his arm, get my grip, lock this grip into my chest, and rotate my torso to limit his flexibility and get my position. That's another way in which I can judge a submission. I'm at that mechanical advantage and I can find it from 2 or more different positions. The third and last way I can think about whether or not a submission is for me, or whether or not a submission is potentially more useful, is if I can disengage from the submission. So again, in regards to a Kimura, Kimura is simple, so we can just keep with that one. I can get my Kimura here, and if he pulls out or something, or if I just don't feel it, I can easily just drop and find something else to do. I'm not committed to this technique. So being able to disengage from a submission is useful too, because if I cannot do so, as we saw in the first submission, if the submission fails to work out, then I'm in a position of disadvantage potentially. So those are my 3 criteria I would use to judge submission holds, and those are the ones you should consider when evaluating your techniques. Whether or not you have a mechanical advantage doing them, whether or not you can find the positions you need to hit these submissions as much as you can, and the third reason is if you can disengage the submission safely if things are failing to work out. But these have been my thoughts on this topic, and I hope you have enjoyed the video, and consider giving it a thumbs up, and also subscribing to my channel for more content. But thank you so much, and take care.